Well, good afternoon. It's still afternoon. I honor this tobacco, and it's always good to receive tobacco when you're going to do something very, very special. And I find, this TRC is very, very, it has a lot to do with me because of, I went to a residential school and I'm a residential school survivor. And I used to not like the survivor because we survived. There's a lot of pain that comes with that survival. But in the end, we're a warrior woman. We've been hurt so much and still we're able to bring children into this world and do our best to mother the children, to parent the children, considering with all what's happening all over, with all this discrimination and, we're moving into cities, for a better tomorrow. Some stay on the reserve, some can't make it because of when they come to the city, they start drinking, and the next thing you know, residential school survivors we always want a better tomorrow, but because we weren't taught how to do it, we get into trouble right away. When I first went into Thunder Bay, Ontario, I didn't know how it was like to be in the city. And we were the first people that moved in there, like brown people. And my children suffered a lot. They were, the kids used to tease them because of their skin, because of who they are. But I told my children, hey, don't fight. I told them, hey, it's better not to fight. But at the same time, if they keep bothering you, I told them, hey, let them through the first punch, and after that, knock them around. I said, and they won't bother you around. And I didn't know how to parent, because that's how I was in residential school. If somebody bothered me, I'd fight. The nuns I'd fight them. They'd beat me up, I'd beat them up. And so it was all right with me. I didn't get into trouble for doing that. And I thought they wouldn't get into trouble either. But it was hard. There's a lot of discrimination. In the end, because of what I taught my children, I didn't want them to get beaten up all the time. So I put them in boxing. And then they became boxers. And once they became boxers, those settler kids, they honored my children. They respected them because one of my children went to Commonwealth Games. He fought. He took third. He lost to England and USA. And he fought with Willie DeWitt and Lennox Lewis during his boxing days. So he's a real good boxer. And then after that, the kids didn't tease him. In fact, they were liked. But that's how we started, and then we left Thunder Bay, and then we ended up here, and this is where I found that TRC. Both me and my late husband went to residential school. He went to La Brette, and I went to St. Anthony's in Honey Lake. And there was a whole bunch of us, from a same age group, a whole bunch. I don't even know how many kids would be 150 maybe. And St. Anthony's wasn't a big school, but there was 2 dorms, and I'm pretty sure there'd be about 75 kids in one dorm, and we've never seen the boys' side. They must have been the boys' side. We weren't even, I don't even remember a lot of the boys' names at the residential school because of we weren't allowed to talk to each other. If we talked or looked at each other, we'd have to go to confession, and we have sinned and tell the priest, and because it was a big sin to look at the boys. So we got used to not looking look at the boys, and if we did, we had to do a confession. And then when I ended up in Saskatoon, that's when I first started to hear stories about the residential school. And, to me, it was nothing new. I knew all about the residential schools. The only thing was we did not want to talk about them. And because of we were so loyal to the church, to the nuns, to the priests, even though they'd done us harm, they had so much power over us. We didn't want to mention them. And then all of a sudden, I thought to myself, "The heck with this!" I said, "I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell the stories." That wasn't a good experience for me. So I started talking, and I told my sisters about the residential schools. What I remember, they were quiet because they didn't want to. They didn't want us sin to talk about these holy people. They kept quiet, but the more I look at them, my sisters were all mixed up, really hurt. And today now, there was 8 of us girls, all residential school kids, and today now, my 6 sisters, they were pretty hurt in the residential school. Pretty hurt the wrong way. When they should have been loved and cared for, they were hurt. And today now, those are the ones that are gone to the spirit world. All of them went into alcohol when they were young. A few of them quit drinking as they got older, but it was too late by then because they already damaged the liver, the kidneys, and some died a direct cause of alcoholism. And I experimented and I decided not to because I didn't like the effects. And when my other sister, that's still with me, she stopped drinking when her husband died. She just stopped just like that. She didn't promise, she didn't say she was going to stop. She just stopped one day and she hasn't drank. It's been about 11 years now. So I'm very proud of her, but we've lost so much. We've lost our parenting. We've lost our role to be good women, to be the right kind of woman. We've lost that role, and we're, at least for me, like I hugged my children and kissed them right till the time they were about 12 years old. Loved them up and that. And after that, we drifted apart. We couldn't love each other, and that's the residential school did that to us too. You know, we never got loved up in our residential school. And our parents weren't very to be loving, you know. We knew they loved us, you know, but they loved us different, you know. My grandmother would braid my hair, my mom, but we didn't have to, we probably would be happy if we were told that we were loved, but nobody told their children, I love you. Nobody did it, but we were kissed a lot. Different culture. And then we got mixed up with the other culture. So I started to realize how damaging the residential schools were. And then when I lived in Thunder Bay, I decided that I'd go to church, you know, and I'd go to church mad, I'd come home mad. I wasn't happy, I didn't like it. And there was one priest in there that I liked him because he was kind of a hippie priest. He had a long hair, curly hair, and he had bell bottoms, dressed in black, and he used to play his guitar, and he'd be rock and rolling. And all the kids came to church because of him. There was lots of young people, and I liked him because I had teenagers. They liked him. And then somebody complained, one of those, people that didn't like that kind of style of music. So they complained and they got rid of him. Yeah, they sent him away. Then the kids quit coming to church. So I told the priest that, have you noticed that all the young people quit coming to church? I said, because of you guys let our priest go. I said, we liked him. And that lady that was complaining, she should just go to another church, I told him. But it's not that easy when you're a Catholic. So I said, as of this day, I'm going to quit coming to church. I said, my children don't want to come to church. So that's what I did. I quit going to church, and I started going to the elders. I smudged at home. And we prayed. I'd be so happy. Walter, he kept on going. He'd take the 2 little ones. And then one day he said that he doesn't have a feeling to want to go to church without me and without the family. All of us would go to church. I told him, well, it's going to stay that way. I'm not going back. I said, I got no use. It doesn't do nothing for me, but I'm a lot happier to smudge. I said, and besides, I've been going to church for 35 years. I said, I don't want to waste any more time and be miserable. I said, so I want to be happy. So I kept on. We went to ceremonies, we went to sweats. I was happy and really happy. Take the kids there. So I haven't been to church. I only go to church if there's a funeral or if there's a wedding. But other than that, I don't. I will go and pray with people when they're sitting at home. When somebody is, when we're going to lose somebody, I'll do that. But as far as to go to church, I don't want to go to church because I don't feel like going. So, and then when I ended up here in Saskatoon, the story is that, the reconciliation, it was all out now. People were talking about it. We started walking, to celebrate, about that we're alive and we're survivors, but at the same time, we're warriors, We made it. And little did we know that there was a lot more to come. And then the storytelling started to come, There was the payoff and stuff like that. And that I was wondering, what's going on, What are they paying? I didn't understand. And even that one was kind of a rip-off. Like they didn't prepare us enough to do that. They didn't. and there was only certain things we could talk about. That the two people that did meet her, the one that listened to my, I think the lawyer, Canada lawyer, that one, and then there's another one, the one that man that runs the stories. He listens, and so he told me this is what I talk about only. And you know what? I'll never know why I had 2 days of telling a story. Most of the people I know, they only did 1 day, but I was given 2 days. I don't know why. So I gave them a big long stories. You know, so I told them that, he wants me to just talk about this. I told him, you know what? I told him I'm not gonna listen to you. I said, I'm gonna talk about what I want to talk about. I said, it's my day. I'm sick and tired of people telling me what to do. I said, I'm not going to listen to your request. I said, but I will talk. I said, so that was it. So I talked, and because everything I talked about had to do with where I've lost my a pride for being a woman. We didn't have no ceremonies about, you know, when you turn to woman, no ceremonies. We didn't know how to behave. We didn't know our ceremonies. I kept my language. I paid for my language, you know, with lickings. My sisters, them too. Most of us, we spoke our language, except the youngest ones. We used to call it, she spoke half English, half Cree, it would be like made up Cree. And she would say, "Endophone bichigan," meaning that I'm going to go on phone. I'm going to be endophone bichigan. Like that's how she would talk, half Cree, half English, but us we would straight Cree. And then and then when we walked, oh, it felt so good. A whole bunch of people joined together, you know. We walked, and some of the older people rode on like those golf carts, and we went all over. It was so beautiful. Lots and lots of people. I think it was the first time we ever celebrated our freedom. What we should have had in the residential school, we never had that. Some people, I think the majority of the people went up to grade 8. Nobody ever went up past that unless you left unless you went to the convents. But when you went to the convent, they were kind of gearing you to become a nun. That was the deal, that one there. Me, I went up to grade 2 and I couldn't go any further. But you know what, my grandmother helped my mother to bring me into this world, and then I stayed at home till I was 7 and went to boarding school after that. So my grandma raised me, so I have 7 years of education from my grandmother, living off the land, you know, speaking my language, being with other old people, I would say. I don't like to call old people elders. I don't, you know, that's the wrong word. And I keep telling that to people, and I still get caught up in it. Elders are Mormons. We are not elders. We are kehteek, you know, wise people. You know, older people. Kehteek, we call them. And another one is notugo. When you become a great grandmother, you become a grandmother and then a great grandmother. So you become a notugo. You're identified as you already have grandchildren. Now you have great grandchildren. Like that's a very good place to be. You know, to have great grandchildren, because you now have the gift of teaching your great grandchildren. And now you finish your grandchildren, they're teenagers already. So it's good the way I see it. Like I cherish my grandchildren, my great grandchildren. They're different kind of children too. They seem to be very outspoken because they're learning from the parents, and they're learning from their brothers, their siblings, and their cousins. They're very resourceful for little people, really, because they teach each other. And they're so funny. Like that one little guy asked his grandpa, he says, "Musom," he goes, "you know those big fat gophers," he says, "were they old people at one time because they look so old?" He goes, "Gophers." I don't know what his grandpa told him, but anyway, that's what he asked. He was so serious. and then he would ask, "Who is when Santa Claus?" They'll say, when Santa Claus, "No, that's not a bush," the other one says. So they're smart, the children, and then they learn about grandmother moon, grandfather sun, mother earth, the water is life. They learn all that. They know all that. Where the grandchildren, they don't know that because we weren't there yet to teach them. But these ones are born into ceremony, so they know lots, and they know about tobacco. put tobacco down, and they listen to you. If you swear, they'll swear and they'll listen to you. And one time I was just aching with pain, and I was just, I said that, Creator, I said, I'm not going to complain today. I said, I'm going to do what you put in front of me. I'm going to do a good job, and I'm not going to complain one bit. I said, other people have it worse off than me. I said, and they're not complaining or whining. So I finished my prayer there, and then we're all sitting down praying. And then I finished. I was just going to get up and say, oh man, did I ever feel pain on my small of the back and also my hip? Oh yeah, I went there. And the little guy says, no, stop it right now. He says, you promised you weren't going to complain. And yeah, is complaining, he told me. So I told him, you're right. I said, okay, I'll quit. So I snapped out of it. See, they're good. And then the other one, I said, Great Spirit, help me. Great Spirit, help me. I'm saying I fell and I couldn't get up. And that little guy, I'll help you, no, he says, but quit calling Great Spirit all the time. He says, you're not the only one in this world. He said, other people need Great Spirit too. You're always calling Great Spirit, he told me. And I thought, okay, then I told him again, so he helped me up. And I have so much fun with these grandchildren. And I have lots to be grateful for it, because we didn't have that happiness when we were in the residential school. We were like orphans, like we had no parents, nothing. The nuns were our mothers, and the priests were our fathers, and the brothers were our brothers. And they weren't in a good frame of mind. Like the majority of the ones that I remember, they were sexually abusers. They abused little girls, they abused little boys. And they did it so good that you didn't know them. You didn't know they were abusers until after we're all grown up, until TRC came. We started saying, hey, you have to tell your story. If you're sexually abused, you've got to tell your story. And even still, some could not tell their stories because it was so horrific. When they were going to tell their stories, they passed out. I remember 2 women I was going to help, they passed right out. You know what? I don't know whatever became of them. I don't know if they ever finished their story. I get a feeling one of them, they say, didn't finish her story, so she never got anything. And she was very badly abused. She vomited and fainted. That's how I was saying, these TRC, they didn't prepare us properly. They did not, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves for that. That's not right. See, everything they do, they think they're giving us lots of money and doing us favors when they give us money. But it isn't. Like, they still rip us off. They should have prepared us what to talk about. Me, the most important thing is how they damaged me as a woman. I couldn't function to be a good mother. I'm a good mother now, and I fostered over 350 children. Even when I fostered 350 children, I was a troubled woman, but I was the best of, I always say, when I look at it, I'm the best of the worst. What do I say now? In my family, I'm the best of the worst and the sickest of the bunch. I always call myself, like, hey, I'm sick, I'm not well, I'm physically sick. And then I would get everybody suffers from, this, it's recognized now. They call it mental health and mental illness, And what is mental illness? One of my Nushima asked me, you know what mental illness is? When you get rip snorting mad and you lose yourself, I said, in anger and rage, I said, you're mentally ill when you do that. You're mentally ill when you assault somebody because you're full of rage with anger. You're mentally ill, I said. So we're all mentally ill, I said. But how far? A fine line? Or we're right into it, I said. Mental illness doesn't mean that we're crazy, I said. It's just that we never learned how to talk about our troubles. We never learned how to share. We never learned how to fix trauma. We pass trauma on. We never learned how to fix it, I said. So we get mad. If somebody hurts us, we want to get even. I said, and that's how come the penitentiaries are full of our people. All these detention centers for youth, they're full because we passed that illness on. They didn't break the cycle yet, I said. I broke the cycle about alcoholism, I said. And my 3 oldest children and my daughter, they quit drinking. My sons quit drinking before they were 18. They went to treatment. See, I recognized that they needed help. And also, my late husband went to treatment 3 times. He went there. He just couldn't. He must have been damaged pretty good where he could not stop drinking. But he couldn't also tell his story. He couldn't say bad things about the nuns and the priests. He just couldn't. Then I was kind of upset about him because he honored those people so much, and my mother-in-law also honored those people too much, so he didn't want to say anything bad about them, so he didn't tell a story. Where me, I wasn't afraid to tell a story about them. You know, they were perverts, and I wasn't going to put them and look at them as they're holier than thou. I just told on them. So, and I didn't get that. And the other thing is, like, you're going to get punished by God. We still live in that. You know, God is going to punish you. You know, and even me, I think like that a little bit when my hip I got operated on, and they added 2 inches on my hip, and now I have to go crooked. I can walk, but oh my God, it kills me. And I thought, I wonder what the heck I did to get punished like this. Right away, I think, right away. See, and it's like that all over, and then I tell myself, there is no punishment. God does not punish people, but we punish ourselves. And sometimes we're victims because of maybe a doctor wasn't all right and operated on me. Maybe the doctor wasn't with it. They operated on me. Maybe he got mixed up with inches or, you know, little, what do you call them, numbers like 1 inch and that, eh? So, and I'm the one now that's paying for it, and the doctor that did it, he passed away. So, and one of my legs is short, long about that much, and I have to wear a hoist, eh? So it really hurts me, but I'm still stubborn, eh? I always say, there's somebody out in the world that has it worse off than me, and they're hurting. The people are in the war, the children are dying, they got nothing to eat, they have it worse, so I better not be whining or complaining. So I pray. And then I tell myself, pain all you want, you're not going to get me. I'll tell the pain now. And then I'll rest. I'll use hot water. I'll sit in hot tub. And then I get okay. But it's really like, it's hard. You have to be physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally balanced. That's what it takes, you know, to pray. And spirituality is not a religion. It's a way of life, to live a good life. You know, to be kind. If you have too much, give some things away. If you have too much food, lots of food, give it away. Don't let it freeze or burn. Like, that's what kindness is, but that's what we lost the way we were taught in a residential school, eh? Now, a lot of that is coming back now. We're starting to be generous again. But every year we have this, and it's changing now about, you know, the truth and reconciliation. A lot more people are talking. They're having big conferences about it, and even the older people, 80 years old, 90 years old, they're talking about it, where before they never kept it, they hid it, and it just destroyed them. They weren't good grandparents as they should have been, or great grandparents. Because of that, wrecked them, the residential school. But these ones now, like my grandsons, I would say they're 30, 37. Those ones I think will be good grandparents. They'll be good great grandparents because they're dealing with their trauma. They know what trauma is, and they're starting to quit drinking at an early age. And like my sons, when they quit drinking before they were 18, and you know, they do well today. I still have one that drinks. I think that's the one we mostly hurt really, really bad. You know, and even when my husband sobered up, like he was kind of left out. We busy going to AA, not taking time with them, and me, I'm busy going to Al-Anon, doing things, you know, volunteering and sitting in committees, and I think he's all right. He's not complaining, but emotionally, he was neglected. Physically, emotionally, he was neglected when we should have just loved him up and do things with him. Instead, he became his own little boss. And then the other one was like that, to the 2 youngest boys were like that, and him, my other son, Patrick, he passed away because of direct cause of alcohol, drugs, pills mixed up. And now he left children, and now his children are following the same footsteps. There's lots of pain there. To have no contact with his children, eh? Like it's like they're different to them. Like we're used to not having them, and things like that. And like it's just that there's too much of broken spirit in there, eh? And they don't want to go for help, and I don't want to be bothered with people that are drinking. I have enough of that. I put up with that for 15 years of my married life, and I'm going to be 80. And like I don't want to be wasting time putting up with the things like that. Today there's treatment centers. They can go to treatment. They can go for help. They have to want help. They have to get better and get well, and that's their responsibility. And they have to quit blaming us. That it's my parents' fault. They got to cut that out. That's one of the most weakest things a person can fall into, to be a blamer. How about, I want to go to treatment, where's the treatment center? So everybody will help them. And then they must go back to their way of life. They must go back what Creator had given them once upon a time. They got to go back to that one, go to sweats, go to ceremonies. But the people, a lot of them are still into real heavy Christian. And them too, there's a lot of sexual abuse happening in that area. I know, because I was a treatment counselor one time, and there was lots of sexual abuse. The people, when they do their fourth step, Alcoholics Anonymous, and we'd listen to their fifth step, and we tell them to empty your soul, empty your spirit. Don't want your spirit to get hurt. Just let it all out. It's no good to you. And then they would say, like again, ministers sexually abusing them, and a lot of pain there. Even some ministers having babies with the young people. Like, it's just so, and they will never tell, because if they tell, they're going to be shunned. They're going to be kicked out. Like a lot of painful things like that. But there's going to be a time where people are going to have to get super strong and get up and say enough is enough and break that cycle. Only then I think we're going to get better. But these ones help, like, when we go for walks and when we talk, when we do things like this, information going out, it's good. Like, I'm not afraid to tell her to say things, and I'm honest, Creator knows I'm telling the truth. I'm not bad-mouthing anything. I'm just telling a story. It's got to be told. And like my grandson drove me here, last minute he arrived. See how Creator works. I said, I'm looking for a taxi, not until half an hour, they told me. I said, I'll forget it. I told him I was going to hitchhike. I said, all of a sudden I saw him coming, pulled right in. And I was going to see somebody in the street and wave at me, hey, and it'll take me. I've done that a few times, so flag is someone I know. But no, he came right there, and then I was telling him what I'm going to do. And then he said, no, come here. He says, did God ever get mad? Oh, yeah. I said, God got mad. Jesus gets mad. I said, they all get mad. I said, I remember one day, sometimes, I'm not very good in English. I can speak my language very fluent, and sometimes I make mistakes with this English language. It's a borrowed language, And I said, one time, one of those fellows got mad. I said, either Jesus or God. I shouldn't call them fellows. I said, I'll take that one back. I said, one of those holy people got mad. I said, and they flooded the world. I said, they flooded the world and everybody drowned except for one of each. I said, and I don't know that story. I said, I learned it in residential school, but I forgot all about it. I said, it's been about 79 years. Last I heard it, I said, but he started laughing when I said, one of the fellas, he goes. I was going to say one of the, I don't know who exactly, they tell you Bible stories, well, that's what happened that time. I said, because the people weren't living all right, they were bad people, so they flooded the place, I said, and everybody died. And that's happening already, but it's not recognized. I said, look at all the volcanoes erupting. Only 1% of water is drinkable in this whole wide world. And the earthquakes, and we have nothing to eat. The wars that are happening, and there shouldn't be no war, I said, but they're fighting over something that they're not supposed to be fighting for. I said, everybody's paying for it. I said, and look at all the people, what's happening in London. Members of a whole family got wiped out. I said, all because of hatred, all because of someone parented with hatred. I said, to be discriminate. I said, they parented like that, and it's real. And I think all those people that they should not be allowed to do that. I said, but because of the justice system, the way it is, it's not working. So they'll kill, because it's nice in church, it's nice in jail. You get 3 meals a day, and especially if you're not stabilized in your brain, you don't think like that. I said, and this man was not stabilized in his brain that did it. He killed people. I said, but again, we don't know. But all I'm saying is it's sad, and that shouldn't happen. I said, and I don't want your kids ever to have any hatred towards anybody, black people, anybody. I said, but do not put up with discrimination. I said, call them on it. I said, stand up to them and just tell them exactly what you think. And tell them the history is, this is our land, this was our land, and you took it. Canada, how old is Canada? Not that old, eh? How we're honored. See, that's how long they've been here, I said. And look at all the destruction that happened. I said, if we smartened all the Indians smarten up, I said, you know what, we can make it come back, I said, because we are educated in a sense of different way, but also enough of us have our ceremonies, and we know Mother Earth is our mother, like the land is our mother. We know about that. We offer tobacco, and we honor all what we have on this earth. I said, the animals, we don't abuse Mother Earth, I said, and the water is life. I said, there's even spirits in the water. I said, the people that drown, we have to honor those ones too, I said. So I was giving my grandson here that wrote me a lecture about things, eh? Because if I don't, nobody's going to tell him that, and he wants to listen. So I tell him that because my father taught me things, my mother, my grandmother, and then Walter, he found his way of life when he was 35 to go back to his way of life. He sweats, and he was given a gift to run sweat lodges. And we did that the last part of his life, and all of us my grandchildren are like that, eh? And if religion works for people, use it. But if they're perverts in there, don't use it. Don't protect them. So to me, I have a lot to offer to my children, and I wouldn't change that. And I make sure that they listen. If you don't listen, I said, you're gonna go into trouble. And then we're so happy that all the residential schools are cut. They're gone, I said, eh? But, the residential schools, the child and welfare replaced the residential schools, and the other ones, the justice system. They are the residential schools now. They're still breaking up families. And then it saddened me there. One day, I was sitting in that, there's these people that come and visit. I was having a nice time, and all of a sudden they told me that we had a meeting with one of the chief of police here, because we got word that the hospital was taking away our grandchildren, and the young mothers can't take them because they're too young, and they have traces of alcohol on them, and nobody to represent them. So the kids, the babies are taken when they're lost, and the girls don't want to fight, and they're busy drinking, and the grandmother doesn't know how to fight. We live in a city. The reserve people don't help us out, and we don't tell them, and they don't tell us nothing. So there's a big gap there. So all these babies are gone now. They're up for adoption. Same thing what happened to us in a 60s school. So we had a meeting with that. So now, that kind of stopped now. Like the hospital was reporting them to social services, and the kids were taken away. But now it's still happening now. The only thing now, it's a social worker in the hospital that's doing it. Social worker will report to the hospital, and that's happening. It shows it's happening. So that's got to be put a stop to that too. And I sit in the advisory committee for chief of police. So I'm going to bring that up to the next meeting, and I'm going to ask I'm going to tell all the other elders of what I found out, and then and we'll take it to the community and put a stop to this. I don't like it. Boy, if it was my grandchild, I'd be there. Boy, I'd fight for my grandchild. I wouldn't dare let the social services win. But I understand, not every grandmother is as aggressive as me. Me, I will fight me. I'll fight till the day I die. Because enough is enough. We've been tortured enough, and they're taking away our grandchildren. Every time you take away a child from a mother, the mother loses some part of her love, and she'll never be the same. The more children they take away, it's like it affects them in the brain. They can't think good. Some of them die of alcoholism. So we need to put a stop to that, and people need to understand. We didn't grow up to be drunkards. We didn't grow up to be have babies and throw them away. It's not that. They take away our babies because we don't know how to live. We don't know how to get healthy. But I always say, go to a sweat. Go over there, and you're going to get somewhere. And if you want to go to church too, somehow go. But me, I just straight to my culture, my spirituality. That's what I do. But these marches, I don't want to call them marches either, they're a reconciliation there. That's to create love, and also to know that we care about ourselves, and we want to be together, and there's so much love amongst that day when we come. We should just see that day everybody's just hugging each other. We're all so happy to see each other, but now we can't hug each other because of COVID, but still, we can do that. So if anybody wants to ask me any question, I could do my best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm also training my granddaughters to be firm and don't let anybody BS you or bully you. I tell them don't let anybody do that to you. I said call on them, call on their behavior. That's the only way we're gonna survive, or else we're gonna be little wimps. We're gonna be wimps for the rest of our life. Bring a whole load of wimps into this world. I said, make it alive, make it lively. I tell them, but we still got quite a ways to go,
Yeah.
But stop sending our loved ones to jail. Stop sending our babies to Kilburn Hall. They don't know how to look after our babies. All of this is we are an industry. The jail people, they benefit from, that group of people, they benefit from my son that's an alcoholic, that suffers a lot from alcoholism. The hospital gets paid for my son when he ends up in the hospital for his liver acting up. And then when my son died, Indian Affairs had to give food to feed the people. He had to buy clothes, even though that was our job to do it, but it's already set there for you. You got this much for food, you got this one for clothing. That's how they looked after us. But I bought my son his own clothes. I didn't wait for Indian Affairs, but the money was used anyway for something else. And then now the children are all into drinking, drugging. They're going to hospitals. The children are taken away. Now social services got my grandchildren, and if she doesn't smarten up my granddaughter, they'll be up all over the place. And not every foster home is good. Not every one of them. There are some good ones, but what's missing there is they don't teach their children culture. They'll teach them church, and that's what I don't like. But my grandchildren will never ever end up like the ones I have contact with. I'm very close, so they'll never end up in care. And I phoned Crisis Line. I told them I just went to introduce myself. I said, if my grandchildren ever, I said, if any ever Linklater kids or horse kids, I said, end up, you call me, I said, and tell them I'll take them. I said, I don't want you to put them in foster care, I said, because they'll be damaged, they'll be frightened, and it'll never be the same. So they benefit from our heartaches. That's what they benefit from our marriage breakdowns. They benefit from women being put in jail in the penitentiary, and the list go on and on and on. We get kicked out from our housing. Our children go into care, in and out of care. Like we're a money racket. Some people buy brand new cars, their insurance. I remember my grandson who ended up in Winnipeg. I wanted my grandson, but they took him away. Like I know these workers that did it, and they're Indian brown workers that helped wreck my family. So they put my grandson, they gave my grandson back to the mother. They set her up. She went on a drug, took off to Manitoba. Manitoba, she got into trouble, ended up in Winnipeg. And she was caught slapping her baby in a pastipo, and she had a nosebleed. So the welfare took him there. And you know what? He ended up in care, ended up in foster care, and then he just started to come back when he was 14. He come home. You know what? I could not believe it. His lice were just crawling around in and out of the house. Billions and billions of lice. They were literally falling off him. And you know what? I called my niece and my granddaughter, and I told them, come and help me. I said, I need help. My grandson's full of lice. I said, he's just come from foster care. And oh my God, they couldn't believe it. My grandson said, she's seen lice, my granddaughter. I've seen lice before, Auntie. She said, never this bad. So we put him in a bathtub with his clothes and all. And I just let the water run there, and I cleaned him up really, really good. You know what? They didn't even budge. Boy, 6 treatments. The most deadliest lice thing I gave him didn't even work. Boy, I got fed up. I said, you know what? There's a war here, I said, between me and the lice, I said. So if I'm going to win this war, I said, I'm going to put that general down. I said, Sean and bought some Mr. Clean. They're advertising this brand new Mr. Clean. It was oval shaped, and it was kind of jello. Boy, I put that on. He said, I clean. You should see the lice crawling all over me. Scooped the hell right out of his head, full of lice. And I'd go like this to the lice, they're all over the floor in the bathtub. So we just took his clothes, threw them in a garbage can. and and we rushed him with that spray, and that until. Oh my! I couldn't believe it. Just unbelievable. And that woman was getting paid $3,000 a month.
Wow.
$3,000 a month. And so you know what? My grandson is going to be 18, and he's thinking about suing that woman, doing something about it. And I have my phone has pictures of him. The lights literally moving. So I phoned Winnipeg to the social worker that time, and my niece also spoke to them. And I told them about what happened. They say, that's what they're doing to our children. They make money on them. And my grandson never ever got love. So he's back in the city here. He's homeless right now because he doesn't want to listen to nobody. He doesn't. I tried keeping him. I kept him and I laid down the law. I'm the boss around here, nobody else. I said, if we can go by my law, you're welcome. I said, if you don't want to listen, you gotta go. And so anyway, he left. He got into a fight with his mother. He got into a fight with his dad. Like, he's mixed up. So I phoned this worker and I told on him. So there's nothing they can do for him but get a place for him. But no, who's going to rent for him? Nobody. He's not even 18 yet. He can't even blow his nose. So that's what they do to our children. And he's going to be aging out, 18 years old. He's got no education, nothing. So we need a better system. What I think is every time a child goes into care, if it's going to be a permanent custody, they should open a bank account for that child and start putting money in there every day until they're 18. That's enough. But they won't do that. They won't listen to me. I told them that. They won't listen. They think I don't know nothing. But that's what I would do, because these kids are somebody.
Yeah.
So I get very, very upset, sometimes sad, and then I don't like to get mad because when I get mad, people learn harsh lessons, eh?
This is good. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing this because a lot of people don't understand this and they don't understand the connection between all of these different moving pieces. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and I teach and I give the children a voice. I let them argue with me. I let them argue, and I tell them, did you have enough or you want some more? I tell them. I had enough too, I'll tell them. And I'll ask them if I can hug them. No, okay, good enough. I'll hug somebody else. Because they don't want to hug, eh?
Yeah.
But in a way, like, TRC is good, but I am so afraid TRC is going to disappear when I die. Nobody's going to be talking about it. So it's important that we have videotapes like this. But it's only effective if you tell nothing but the truth. If you tell how beautiful residential school is, they're going to believe that. They won't want to believe me. But I fought in a residential school. I fought with the nuns' fists, dragged them around. They beat me up, and oh my God, that was before I ended up getting a grade 2 education. I got kicked out a couple of times. Went back to the residential school. But I am a warrior woman.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not a survivor.
No.
But I survived,
Yeah.
And my father went to the same boarding school as I did.
Wow.
See, that's how old that the residential school is. And my grandmother went 21 years in Delmas.
Oh, wow.
And then she went to that industrial school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 21 years. And then after that, there's nothing else they can do for her.
Intergenerational. Intergenerational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what they made her do is to be a janitor, look after the kids, cook, sew. That she stayed, and then my grandfather went over there to be a farmhand. So they had an arranged marriage. So they got married, and then they ended up in Delmas, and then they ended up. Delmas was sold, and then they went to New Tunnertsal was put there. So that's where he went. So there's two parts of Tunnertsal, Third Lake and Tunnertsal. It's one of them is a lake and hunting. And the other one is a reserve, but we lived on the hunting place. And my father was a hunter-trapper. So so we're still a band member of Thunderchild. But I live out here. I got married when I was 17 and my husband was 19. And we've almost made 60 years, and he passed away 3 years ago. He passed away August 5th, and my birthday was April 5th. So but my grandchildren look after me. They help me out, and my sons, my daughter helps. When that's the thing is when you're a big family, you help each other.
For sure.
Well, except when nanas kumun kakiki wewotse. Ego tatumaga we atsumo kaimana atsumok. Tata bume ki we. Muga kakata ya tasum sinoka kwe paspihaya kok. Ego kakamemo kanihio ya kaya mina kanihio mamusige ya kanihio ya. I said that I encourage people to speak and not to be afraid to talk about what they need to talk about, and not to be afraid to re-teach our children our language, teach them, and only then if we lose the language, we've got nothing. We have to have the language. You know, there's some words that in my language that you cannot translate to English. You have to know the language. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, and I used to write it. That's a priest who brought that syllabics. Yeah, but I learned that. My mother taught me that. But you know what? It didn't take long to forget. It didn't take long at all.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really honored we got to listen to
Thanks,
you.
Maria.